So in the last class, I hope we were trying to talk about how do we take the offsets, and then we subsequently went on to understand in case if our area is relatively bigger in size, then with a single survey line or your single control line, you may not be able to take the offsets of various points like the boundaries of your survey area, or maybe different objects that are existing in that particular site. So it might become difficult for taking the offsets of various objects that are existing in the field. Okay. So while preparation of the map, so it might come out to be little difficult. Okay. This is all what we have talked about in our last class. So in such discussion where the area is relatively large, but still if I want to go with your chain and tape, then what we said is try to go for some different number of control lines with the help of which you can try to take the offsets of various points, and you can try to locate all those objects in the form of a graphical representation, or you can go on to represent all that particular salient features or the topography of that particular location, so in the form of your map. That's what we have talked about. And let's say I'll just try to quickly go through something what is relevant to what we have talked about in our earlier classes again. Okay, this is my construction area, and I have two control points what I have located, A and B, in between which I am trying to define my control line or survey line. And if I have got in this particular construction site, if I am required to locate the boundary of that region, and let's say I have got some road like this, which is to be mapped. I've got some trees which are to be mapped. Okay, I've got some other tree, some set of houses. Okay, so various information, various things I have got, like I have got some telephone poles in this direction. Okay, so I just want to map all this information into, I just want to carry out this complete information from the field, and I want to represent this complete information onto my map, which is, I'm calling it as my graphical representation of the field data onto a computer or maybe onto your drawing sheet. Now, for doing this, as we said, if the area what we are looking at is relatively big, so it may not be so easy and so comfortable even by going with some parallel control lines and carrying out the network or carrying out the survey in that particular complete survey field would slightly come out to be difficult. So in such case, what we try to do is we try to form what is called as triangulation. Okay, we try to build up some triangles in the form of some control network. Okay, so with that triangulation, we try to carry out our survey. Okay, so what does that triangulation mean? Let's look at here. A and B are my control stations. Now, just in between A and B, defining one control line is not just helping me in understanding the complete geography of that particular site, what I am looking at, topography of that particular site. So what I am just trying to do is, I am trying to locate some more control points, so that now with the help of those other control points, I just want to make my life relatively simple. Okay, so in the process of doing it, let's say I'm just trying to mark some different control points in this field so that I can try to build up some network, and with the help of this particular network what I am trying to build, I would make my life relatively simple, and with that network I'll try to find out the offsets of various points that I want to locate on my map which are existing in the field. Okay, so this I'm calling it as point G. So what I'm just trying to do is, this is A to C is one control line, C to D is another control line, and maybe like this, A to D is another control line, maybe C to G is another control line, A to G is another control line, maybe something like this. Let's say A to F is another control line, F to G is another control line, F to E is another control line what I am looking at, and maybe something like this from E to B and E to G, and likewise from B to D, and let's say G to B, and likewise from C to G if I want. Okay, so what I have now ultimately done is, I am trying to locate some control stations A, B, C, D, E, F, Okay, some control stations, let's say your control station G is what I call it as intermediate control station, because it is coordinating with various other control stations intermittently. Okay, so like A, B, C, D, E, F, G are my different control stations with respect to which I have built my control network. Now, what is that I am trying to do by building that control network? A to C line, A to F line, F to E line, E to B line, B to C, B to D line, maybe D to C line, A to D line, C to G line, different lines you have marked in your survey field. Now, the objective of marking those different control lines or your survey lines with respect to that of the different control stations in the form of triangles would make your life simple in taking the offsets with regard to different points that are existing in the field. It could be the boundary of the field. It could be your points, what you want to locate in the field, like houses or trees or maybe electrical poles or your telephone poles or your street lights, various other information. It could be a road. So whatever you want to mark, all that information I can try to mark by taking some or the other control line as my reference to take the offsets. Okay, so if I have a single control line, we are saying it is becoming difficult to take the offsets of various faraway points from that particular control line. Now, let's say, for example, if I want to take the offsets of this particular region of the boundary, maybe this much region, this particular region of the boundary, for which if I am required to take the offset, then what I can do is from this point, I can try to drop a perpendicular onto this line AC. From this point, I can drop a perpendicular onto the line AC. From this point, I can drop a perpendicular onto the AFC. From this line, I'll try to drop a perpendicular onto the line AC. And from here, I'll try to drop another perpendicular. I'm just saying perpendicular. Okay, so my lines, what I am drawing may not exactly look perpendicular, but assume that they are perpendicular. And maybe other part of the boundary, if I'm just looking at here in this region, then from here, I can drop a perpendicular. From here, I can drop a perpendicular. And likewise, I can just try to drop perpendicular offsets onto various control lines what you have marked in your field, and with the help of that I can try to understand how is your boundary existing for that particular site. Not just by taking one control line as my reference, I am having a multiple control lines existing in the field with respect to which I am trying to understand the location of the boundary. In the similar way, maybe the location of this particular tree, if I want to understand, I can drop a perpendicular offset onto this survey line C to G. Maybe this one, I can try to drop a perpendicular onto the survey line C to G, or maybe onto the survey line D to G. So the position of various things I can try to understand by marking their offsets onto various control stations, control lines or your survey lines, what you have marked in that particular field. So with that, ultimately, when you understand how your different features existing in that particular field are marked with respect to the various survey lines or control lines, then your life becomes easy in order to map your data onto what is called as your graphical sheet. Okay, so in the process, if you are going for this triangulation process, okay, basically this so-called process of triangulation is what we call it as principle of chaining. What is the principle behind the chaining process means? It's nothing but triangulation. Okay, so we divide that particular area by building some control stations. In between those control stations, I am trying to develop what is called as your control lines. And with reference to those control lines, we are trying to, with respect to those control stations and control network, what we have, we are trying to divide that particular domain into some series of triangles, so that with respect to each of those triangle, what we are trying to build up in the form of that network, we can try to take the offsets of various points which are existing in that particular survey field. And once the data of offset is collected, then I can note down that particular data in my survey field book. Okay, so if I am just referring to any offset data that is taken with respect to your survey line AB, let's say, if any offset data is marked on this survey line AB, okay, so if some offset is marked, then with respect to that chainage of so and so along that survey line AB, for an offset of something so and so, I locate that corresponding point, which could be a house, which could be a tree, or maybe a point on the road cross section, and so on. That's how you can go on to locate various objects that you have marked in your field with respect to different survey lines, whatever you have marked in that particular field. So by building that particular network, control network, so you are trying to accurately measure, accurately in the sense relevantly, when we are trying to talk about with least number of survey lines, where the measurements what you are trying to take in the form of offsets are more than that of a single chain length. So there we might come across with some possibilities of errors in placing the chain, improper ranging, and so on. So if you can minimize that distances to which your offset measurements are to be made, which can be less than your 30 meters chain length what you are using, so you can make your life simple, because you need not carry out any ranging. So simply from one point to other point in a straight path, if you can stretch your chain or tape, it would be easy for you to take the measurements without any difficulty. So all the data, whatever I have with respect to different survey lines, whatever data that you have mapped in the form of taking offsets, so all that data you can try to note down in your field book. Okay, so for survey line AB, this is one page. Maybe for survey line A to C, this is another page in the field book with respect to which survey line AC, whatever offsets that I have measured, maybe for the sake of your boundary of your compound or maybe the boundary of that particular region, or for locating the compound wall of that particular survey area. So whatever, all that information you can try to mark, and you can try to carry that information to your lab, where you are trying to work out in the preparation of your map. In the process of preparation of the map, now I'll first understand in my graph sheet. First, I'll try to choose your control station point A, and with respect to this control station point A, I know at what distance your other control station point B is existing. Okay, and once this is known, then I'll try to understand, okay, what is that particular distance where I can try to locate other control station, which is in turn connected with your let's say point B and point A. Okay, so point B and point A is trying to connect your control station G. So with respect to this control station G, okay, I'll just try to locate your control station G, what is there in your field. Okay, already I might have taken the measurement from point A to point G and point B to point G. So with respect to that measurements, I'll try to locate those measurements starting from point A and point B, and I'll just try to understand where does those two lengths of the chain intersect, and accordingly I'll try to say, okay, this is something what I am trying to get as my survey line A to G and survey line B to G. So once this is done, then I can go ahead in building up the other network which is connected with your survey station maybe G. I can try to locate it. So in the process, if I am trying to locate it, so I will come across with your other survey stations what I am just trying to look at. So from G, I know what is my G to C distance. From A, I know what is my A to C distance. So I can try to locate that position of point C control station. Likewise, from G, I know what is the distance at which your point D is existing, that is your GD distance. And similar way from B, I know what is my BD distance. Accordingly, I can locate the position of your control station D. And the CD distance already we have marked, so you can verify whether that much exact distance you are getting in the field or not. Otherwise, you can cross-check for your measurements what you have done. Likewise, you can go ahead in understanding the other survey stations, whatever you have got. So from A to F and G to F is another survey station. Likewise, from B to E and G to E, I have another survey station, and from F to E, this is another survey line. So that's how I'm trying to develop my control network. Now, once the control network is done, then already in your field book, you have, okay, from the survey line A to C, on the survey line A to C, on its left side, you have at a chainage of so and so you have some offset at this distance. Okay, another offset at this distance, another offset at this distance, another offset at this distance, and likewise so on. So if I have some data what we have marked, so with respect to various other things, then I can accordingly locate the boundary of your region what you are trying to look at, and that's how you can try to draw the boundary of that particular region with respect to the offset data what we have with respect to different control lines what you have marked in that particular field. And likewise, you have marked the position of the tree somewhere here by dropping an offset onto this CG line earlier. So from that CG line, at what distance you have the offset of this for corresponding what chainage, at what distance you have your tree. And likewise, another tree, another house, somewhere I have another house. So maybe your telephone poles. So all that information I can try to map, and I can try to get what is the map of that particular survey field. Okay, so that's how we carry out the survey of a relevantly larger area where single chainage or a single tape what we are trying to use may not be just sufficient enough in measuring your offsets or carrying out your survey. So where you are required to take place multiple times in order to take the offsets of different points. In such case, we try to first build a network, a proper network, which we are calling it as a triangulation. What we are trying to do there ultimately is what is called as triangulation. And with the help of the triangulation process, we are trying to take the offsets of various things that are existing in the field, and we are trying to transfer that data in the form of representation on a graphical sheet, which we are calling it as here map. Okay. So what we have been talking about still here is nothing but simple usage of your chain and tape only, but with the help of what is called as building up some triangles in the form of what is called as triangulation process, you are trying to carry out your survey. Next, is it always possible for us to develop the triangles or take the offsets of various points onto that control network what you have marked? Because when you are trying to say, I'm trying to develop a triangulation, whatever the survey line that you are trying to draw between 2 points, from one end, the other end of the survey line, other end of the survey line should be visible. That means the other end of the control station, the other side of the control station, what you have on that control line, it should be visible. Is it possible to build a network with triangulation form where if I am standing here, I should be able to see the end of the survey line, which is called as the control point on the other side? Okay, so is it possible in all such different cases? So it may not be so much easy for us to build a network, what is called as a triangulation, where you will have the visibility of various points of different control lines or different control stations from one control station to that of the other end of the control line, which we are calling it as the other control station. Okay, I'll just give you an example. Let's say, for example, this is my boundary in which I'm trying to carry out my survey. Let's say I have some road here, maybe another road here, some road here. Okay, maybe it's a kind of a colony in which I am trying to, for which I am trying to prepare a map. Maybe I have a road here like this. Yeah. Let's say somewhere here I have a building, maybe some individual houses. Okay. Maybe another building and maybe some trees. It could be a park or something like that. Okay. So other trees, different. You have a small house here, and likewise various things are there, so which you are required to map in your survey field. Okay, now what I said earlier, as the area is large, So we would relatively look for building up what is called as a network, which we are calling it as your control network, by representing what is called as control stations and your control lines. In the form of triangulation, I am going to be building up your control network. So in the process, let's say this is some control point A, this is some control point B, this is some control point C, okay, and this is some control point D, maybe this is some control point E. Yeah, somewhere here I have another control point. Just you can mark any number of control points. It's up to your convenience to build up that network of so-called control network. Okay, so I may not go on to write more and more number of control points. Okay, this is how some control points I have marked. And in the process of triangulation, what we are supposed to be doing? Okay, from A to E, I have one control line. From E to B, I have another control line. From B to C, I have another control line. And E to D, it is another control line. And likewise, F to G, I'm just saying this is another control line what I have marked. And in the process of triangulation, what we need to be doing? Okay, I should build up your triangles by representing other survey lines. Okay, so if I want to build the triangles here, maybe from E to C, I'll try to represent another survey line, and maybe from C to E or something like this is what I have as another survey line, which is giving me the complete control network. According to my understanding, I just want to build my control network like this. But now, is it possible for me to build up a control network in this particular form, as like what I have mentioned, like a triangulation of AEF, maybe EFB, BCE, EDC, so different triangles what I have represented. Now, is it possible for us to understand or to see those all different survey lines what I have marked in that particular control network? Is it feasible for us to take the offsets of different objects onto those different survey lines whatever I have in that particular field? So in such case, why do we say it is not possible for us to carry out the survey with this triangulation process? Now, if you look at here, can I try to have what is called as a survey line from A to D? It's not possible, because in between this survey line A to D, I have a building. If I'm trying to stand at the point A, is it possible for me to see the point D, control station point D? Okay, so control station point D is not going to be visible from your control station A. So it means your control line, what I am trying to represent, AD line, is not proper, because it's of no use. You are not able to mark that AD line there. If you are not able to mark that AD line, it is not possible to take the offsets of various points onto that particular control line. In the similar way, let's say for example, I am looking at your control line E to C. Control line E to C, if whatever I am trying to mark is going to intersect with the house that is existing there. So it's not possible for you to take a chain or a tape over the houses that are existing there. Okay, so in such case, your triangulation method may not be working out to be very useful. So how do we carry out the survey of that particular region? Not just by depending on what is called as triangulation, which we are trying to build up in the by simple chain and tape. Okay, so here in this particular case, the triangulation is not possible because of the obstructions what you have. Okay, so in such case, what could be the alternative way by which you can carry out the survey of that particular field? So if I am just trying to look at once again, this is how I have my road network, which I was trying to look at earlier. So maybe from A to E, like E to F, E to B, E to D, B to C. These are my control stations. Now, whatever building you have got here, whatever trees that you have here, or maybe your houses that you had here, whatever you have, the offsets of all those different things you can try to mark. Maybe another building which is existing here, maybe one tree, another tree, whatever information that you have, you can try to mark the information of all those various salient things with respect to that of that simple network what you have represented. Okay, so traverse is nothing but series or sequence of control lines which you are representing in your control network, with respect to which you are trying to measure or you are trying to take the offsets of various points. Okay, so with the help of simple chain and tape, if I'm trying to talk about, but later on we'll try to shift on to using some other different equipments by which you will carry out your survey of that particular traverse, not just by your simple chain and tape, because using chain and tape is going to be a tedious process in the areas where you are relevantly carrying out your survey, which is said to be big. In larger areas, if you are trying to carry out your survey by simple means of complete time. So in such case, we can make our life relatively little simple by carrying out the measurements along with the chain or tape. You also use some other devices so that your work can get simplified in the complete process of carrying out your work. Okay, so what is that kind of approach that we are going to be looking at is nothing but we are calling it as your traversing. So in the process of traversing, what we are going to be doing is we try to build a series of your control lines with respect to which we take the offsets of various objects. Let's say this is one tree. The offset of this I can try to mark it onto your control line AE. The offset of this I can try to mark it onto the control line EF. And the position of this particular building, I can try to take the offsets of it with respect to the control lines, whatever I have existing in that particular field. Okay, so it totally depends on how the data you want to measure. Let's say I also want to understand the boundary of this construction site. Maybe another survey point, I'll just try to control point, I'll try to mark it here, and I'll be calling it as control point G. And from A to G, I can represent your survey line, and maybe from G to D also I can try to represent another survey line. So with respect to G to D survey line, I can try to take the offsets of this region of the boundary wall. And with respect to C to D survey line, I can try to take the offsets of other portion of your boundary, and maybe the offsets of these portions of the building. All that information also can be marked, and accordingly I can try to mark the information of that complete field onto my map by taking the different offsets by simple using of chain and tape. Okay, and once the data is known, then I can transfer that data from your field book onto your drawing sheet or onto your graphical representation on the computer. So where all that salient information that you have in the particular site are being transferred onto your drawing sheet or your map, which we are calling it as your map. Okay, so that's how we carry out your survey by your simple chain and tape, not just by the process of your triangulation, rather by what is called as your traversing. Traversing is nothing but moving along your control line, where that particular control lines are represented along some path where you don't have any obstruction for carrying out your measurements. Okay, so if you try to look at the kind of traverse which I am going to do, let's say for example, between the point A to G, G to D, D to E, E to A. Station A, going to the control station G. From that control station G, I am going to the control station D. From that control station D, I am going to a control station E. And from that control station E, I am coming back to your original control station. Such kind of traversing, what I am trying to have, moving from one station to the next station, next station, next station, and ultimately reaching back to the same station where you started your traverse. Such kind of traversing is what we call it as closed traverse. And we are also going to have another type of traverse, what is called as open traverse. What does this open traverse mean? Let's say for example, I am trying to carry out my traversing by moving from point A to E and E to F. So A to E to F. What has happened? Starting point of that particular traversing is A, ending point of the traverse is F. So whenever your starting point of the traverse and ending point of the traverse are not coinciding, not intersecting each other, starting point and ending point, if they are not meeting, then it means that such kind of traverse is what we call it as your open traverse. Okay, so when the starting point of the traverse and the end point of the traverse, if they are not coinciding, then such kind of traverse is called as your open traverse. And in case if your starting point of the traverse and the end point of the traverse is same, then such kind of traversing what we are carrying out is what is called as your closed traverse. Now, is it advantageous to have an open traversing that we are doing or a closed traverse that we are carrying out? Let's say this is one control station A. This is another control station B, control station C, control station D, control station E, control station, okay, C, D, E, F. If this is my pattern of traverse, what I have carried out, then which I am calling it as your open traverse. Okay. Now in the same way, A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, E to F, and from F to A, if we are trying to complete your traverse, let's say A, B, C, D, E, F, and F to A. From A to B, I went. From B to C, I went. C to D, D to E, E to F, and F to A. If I am going back to the same point where I started my traverse, then this kind of traverse is what we call it as closed traverse. Now, is it advantageous to go for what is called as an open traverse or a closed traverse? So always we suggest, if possible, go on to conduct a traversing which is called as a closed traverse. It's better to carry out what is called as a closed traverse. So why is it better to carry out what is called as a closed traverse? Once you say the starting point of the traverse, end point of the traverse, if it is getting coincided, then we can measure the angles what are getting formed between different survey lines internally. Okay, we can measure the angles internally between different survey lines, whatever you have in that particular traverse path. And we can try to understand sum of all those internal angles, whatever you are measuring. Let's say I have got n number of internal angles. So sum of all those internal angles, I can try to measure, and I can try to compare it with the standard value what I am supposed to be getting. In the case of open traverse, you cannot cross check whether your measurements what you have carried out in representing or in building that particular network. So whether your measurements are correct or wrong, you cannot exactly say that. Because if you are not able to properly develop the traverse without any error, then obvious that all the offsets or all the measurements what you are trying to take with the help of that particular network what you have built up, all those measurements, are at least some part of the measurements whatever you have taken, they are not going to be very accurate. Okay, so that's the reason why we say it's very advantageous for us to go for what is called as a closed traverse, because you can check the accuracy of that particular closed traverse what you have carried out. Once you know what is the accuracy of that particular closed traverse, then obvious that with respect to that closed traverse what you have represented on your map, all the offset measurements what you have measured, if you are trying to mark it on your map, those measurements are going to be relatively more accurate. Representing that control network by simple usage of chain and tape, so it might be relatively a difficult task, because you have to place your chain and tape for carrying out various measurements every time. Okay, so in this particular case of your traverse what we are trying to talk about, if I just want to make use of only simple chain and tape, so I cannot very much accurately understand, let's say from point A, I have represented the control station point B, and I have marked your length AB. And then from point B, if I am required to locate the position of point C, in which direction I should go? How is the direction of your AB control line and BC control line is getting oriented? Earlier, if I have the measurement of point C, linear measurement, where it is of point C from point A, okay, then once AC distance is known, BC distance is known, it's possible for us to represent your point C by carrying out the measurements from station B, from station A. So wherever those two measurements coincide, we say it's a position of your control station C. As I told you, like if I want to depend on only the stain and tape, it's going to be a tedious process, because once again, I should know the measurement of point C from point A if I want to locate the position of point C. Not just the distance BC is sufficient enough, even the distance AC is also sufficient, is also required. Likewise, in the other cases also. So in order to avoid this particular large measurements, what you are carrying out with the help of your chain or tape, so then what we come across with the utilization of what is called as compass for measuring. Now with the help of compass, how do we take the angles and so on? We'll try to see in a couple of lectures, whatever we are coming across with. So ultimately the compass is nothing but it's a device what we are going to be making use of for measuring the angles between the lines. Okay, between one survey line to the other survey line, how much is the angle that is getting formed between them? So if I want to find out, yes, I can find out. Let's say the angle what is getting formed at point control station A is something θ1. This is θ2. This is something θ3. This is something θ4, θ5, and θ6. Okay, so what I can do is at control station A, I'll be setting up an instrument what is called as a compass, and with the help of that compass, I'll try to understand how is your survey line AF at station A, how is your survey line AB at that station A, and once I understand how is your survey line AF and AB at that control station A, how those lines are existing means at what angle that survey line AF is there, survey line AB is there. So once those angles at which survey line AF and AB are there, then accordingly I can understand what is the angle that is made between that survey lines AF and AB. And likewise at different other survey stations also, I can go ahead in understanding what is the angle that is getting formed between different survey lines which are getting intersected at a particular survey station or a control station. And once you know the angles, you need not carry out the measurements of various lines that you are trying to do earlier in the case of simple usage of chain and tape. Now here in the case of this particular closed traverse example, if I am trying to look at, okay, this particular closed traverse, the same thing, A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, E to F, F to A, whatever we were trying to say, in this particular complete traverse, if I can take the measurements of lines AB, BC, CD, DE, EF, and FG, 6 linear measurements are required and 6 angles are required to be measured there. So if I can measure your 6 linear measurements and 6 angular measurements, then my so-called complete traversing can be completed. Okay, so your traversing, whatever we are trying to talk about, we are trying to make the life of that complete carrying out of traverse. Okay, so even in the case of traverse, what we require is linear measurements and angular measurements. Okay, so in the case of linear measurements, that's measuring the distance between points is what we call it as your linear measurement. Now what is this angular measurement mean? At a point, at what angle of inclination your so and so survey line is there, some other survey line is there, some other survey line is there, and so on. So that is what we call it as your angular measurements. Measure your angles is what we call it as compass. There are various other devices also by which you can measure your angles between different lines that are existing. Okay, so the horizontal angle between two lines or two directions. Okay, so that horizontal angles we can try to measure with the help of compass, we can measure with the help of theodolite and total station and so on. But here now I just want to introduce a device what is called as compass, with the help of which I can carry out my angular measurements between let's say 2 lines. Okay, in between these 2 lines, what is the angle that is getting formed here means I can try to measure that with the help of what is called as your compass. Carry out your survey where your angular measurements are taken with the help of compass. So that survey is what we call it as compass survey. And that particular surveying is what we call it as your compass surveying. So this is the next topic what we are getting started with. in our first unit. And this will be the last topic in the first unit, because in the first unit we have what is called as introduction to surveying, and next is what is called as your linear measurements. So how do we carry out the linear measurements with the help of simple chain and tape, and what are the different types of errors that we come across in the case of chain or tape, and how do we eliminate those errors, that in the sense how do we correct for those errors which we are encountering in the case of utilization of your chain and tape. Okay, so that's all what we have talked about till now. And next to move on is what is called as your compass surveying. So in the case of compass surveying, before we start talking about what exactly is this compass surveying, first let me introduce you to what is the principle based on which we carry out this particular compass surveying. Means the principle of compass surveying is nothing but it is traversing. So earlier triangulation is what we said as the principle of your chain and tape. And in the case of your compass surveying, what is the principle of compass surveying? Means by building up what is called as the traverse, we try to carry out the survey of that particular location or that particular field what we are looking at. Okay, so the traversing could be either a closed traverse or whatever the type of traversing what we are going to be looking at. It could be an open traverse or it could be a closed traverse. Okay, so it depends on what is the feasibility aspect that you have got in order to carry out the traverse. If possible, you carry out what is called as a closed traverse, so that you can eliminate the errors in the form of building up your traverse, and automatically once your errors are eliminated in the process of building up that particular traverse, then the measurements or so-called offsets, whatever you are going to be taking, if there is any measurement, offset measurement what you have carried out is wrong, you will have the issue only with that measurement. You will not have the issue with the complete data what you have marked from your field in the preparation of your map. So before we go ahead in talking about how do we carry out our survey with the help of compass, and how do we measure your angles with the help of your different compass that we have, okay, there are certain fundamental terms which we need to have an idea about. And once we understand about those fundamental terms, we'll go ahead in understanding what are the different types of compass available and how do we take the measurements with the help of those different compass. Okay, so first let me introduce you to a word what is called as meridian. Meridian is nothing but it's a reference direction or a reference plane from which you are going to measure the angles of various lines that are existing. Or if I want to measure at what angle your so and so line is existing here at this particular control station, I have some line, AB line, AC line, and so on. Let's say in my traverse, I've got different lines existing. Now from this particular control station, if I want to understand at what angle of inclination this particular line, so and so AB survey line or AC survey line is existing in my traverse, then first I have to understand the angle for this line I have to measure with respect to some reference. I cannot say the angle of this line is marked from this plane as reference, or from this direction as reference, or from this direction as reference, or maybe from this direction as reference. I cannot consider my own direction as reference, and according to which I'll try to measure the angle at which this particular so and so line is existing. Okay, it's not appropriate. So first we have to understand what is my reference that I am trying to choose with respect to which I am going to carry out the so-called measurements of angles of various survey lines that are existing in that particular traverse. Okay, so meridian is nothing but it's an plane of reference or an axis of reference or a direction which you are considering as a reference from which you are trying to measure the angles of various survey lines or control lines that are existing in that particular field what you have marked. Okay, now what are the different types of meridians that we generally come across with? One is true meridian, second is magnetic meridian, grid meridian, and arbitrary meridian. So what does this true meridian mean? So true meridian is nothing but it's a fixed plane what you are trying to talk about, or plane of reference what you are trying to talk about, which you are trying to get. Let's say this is my earth. You have your poles, geographical poles, and if you have your survey lines going from one pole to the other pole, that is what I'll have n number of such kind of geographical curves that I can represent, where this should be passing through what is called as your both the poles, geographic poles, which I am trying to represent. What does it mean? Just look at here. If this is what I am considering it as your geographic north and geographic south, okay, so you have different lines which are passing through geographic north and geographic south. Okay, so you might have a line like this, you have one line like this, you have another line like this, you have another line like this, you have another line like that, and so on. You have n number of lines or curves which you are able to represent, which are passing through your geographic north and geographic south. Okay, now what does this true meridian means? True meridian is nothing but it is the true direction of your geographic north and south plane, whatever we are representing. I repeat, it's the true direction of that particular plane which is passing through your geographic north and geographic south. So such plane is what we call it as your true meridian. Now, if I'm trying to stand at some point on this particular earth, let's say I'm standing somewhere here on the earth, and what is my true meridian? With respect to the position where I'm standing, I have marked some point in red on this globe. So what is my true meridian with respect to this point means? It is that so-called reference line or your plane which is passing through your geographic north and geographic south and the point where you are trying to stand. Okay, let's say I'm standing here, my geographic north is somewhere that side and geographic south is somewhere onto the other side. So a line joining these points, myself, geographic north and geographic south. So that line, whatever the plane, what is that getting formed, which is trying to join all these 3 points. So that plane is what we call it as, or that reference what we see there is what we are calling it as here true meridian. And next is magnetic meridian. Okay, so what does this magnetic meridian mean? Magnetic meridian is nothing but it's once again an axis of reference or a plane of reference which is joining the points of magnetic north, magnetic south, and that so-called observer where he is trying to stand for taking out your for measuring your angles. Okay, so if you have a magnetic needle always have an indication of your north direction. Okay, so the direction indicated by your magnetic needle is what we consider as your magnetic north, and the other side of it is what we consider as your magnetic south. Okay, so that axis of reference of your magnetic north, magnetic south is what we consider as your magnetic meridian. If your axis of reference or the plane of reference what we are trying to talk about is with respect to that of your geographic north and geographic south, then in such case that axis, that plane of reference is what we call it as your true meridian. And in case if your plane of reference what you are trying to talk about, which is passing through the points what is called as your magnetic north and magnetic south, and with respect to the position of the observer, so that plane in which your magnetic north, magnetic south, and the position of the observer is marked, so that plane is what we call it as your magnetic meridian, or some reference direction which I am trying to consider, where the indication of that reference direction is marked with your north, magnetic north. With the help of your magnetic needle, you'll be able to identify where is your magnetic north direction. That is, how do we understand the effect of that magnetic north direction? That is with regard to the effect of your gravity. So, which would align the direction of your needle towards what is called as that magnetic north. Because of the concept of Earth's magnetism, your needle gets oriented to some particular direction to indicate you which is that direction which is called as your magnetic north. So with that magnetic north as my reference, as an observer, wherever I am trying to stand, I'll try to carry out my measurements, so called as your angles. And likewise, grid meridian. Grid meridian is nothing but if you are trying to carry out your measurements, angular measurements, or if your so-called axis of reference which you are taking it as reference, which is from a grid of lines, whatever you have, okay, that is what we call it as your grid meridian. So in general, most of the times we don't even come across this kind of meridian represented. And another type of meridian what we can even come across sometimes, if you don't have a magnetic needle and if you do not know what is your geographic north and geographic south in order to locate what is your true meridian, then in such case, if I want to understand what is the direction of so and so pole which is existing there, so what I can try to do is, from the position where I am standing, I'll try to look at some fixed reference. Fixed reference in the sense, maybe I have a statue here. From this position, I'll first understand, okay, towards this statue, this direction I am considering as my axis of reference. Arbitrarily, I am choosing something as my axis of reference in order to measure at what direction that so and so pole is there. I repeat, I am choosing some arbitrary point to locate my axis of reference or to locate the reference direction from which I want to measure the position of various other objects existing in that particular site. Okay, such kind of meridian, such kind of arbitrary reference what you are choosing is what we call it as arbitrary meridian. Okay, so we will not be coming, we will not be mostly using what is called as, until and unless it is essential, we will not be talking about what is called as your arbitrary meridian. Okay, so what most commonly we'll be using is magnetic meridian, not even your true meridian also. Why? Because it's why are we not going for what is called as true meridian? Means it is relatively difficult for locating what is called as your true meridian direction. But whereas in the case of magnetic meridian, if you have a simple magnetic needle, that would serve your purpose. Even nowadays, your mobile phones are also having that particular apps, which we say an app called as compass, where that compass, once you open, it shows the direction of your magnetic north, magnetic south. Okay, so your life is going to be relatively more easy with the help of taking the measurements relevant to that of your what is called as magnetic meridian. Because most of the equipments, rather almost all the equipments that we use in our surveying are, in case wherever your angles are being measured, in all such cases, the reference whatever you have there is your magnetic north. So that's the reason why we say all the measurements, angular measurements what we are trying to carry out in the field are with respect to what is called as your magnetic meridian. So in the case of true meridian, with reference to which if I want to carry out my measurements, then the problem or the difficulty what we come across is in locating the direction of that true meridian first. Because if I want to understand the direction of the true meridian can be very much understood when your sun, by looking at the position of the sun at mid-afternoon, that is at 12 o'clock. At 12 noon, depending on the position of your sun, we will be able to understand how is your true meridian going to be, depending on the direction of your sun, depending on the position of the sun at that 12 o'clock. So we will be able to develop what is called as your true meridian. So it's relatively difficult for us to develop your true meridian every time wherever you want to carry out your measurements, so-called angular measurements. So in such case, what is easily being adopted are in any of the instruments that we have for carrying out your surveying. So all those different instruments are equipped with what is called as your magnetic needle, which easily helps us in figuring out what is called as your magnetic north direction. So with respect to that magnetic north as my reference, I'll try to carry out the angular measurements of various lines existing in that particular field, and that I'll be able to tell you, okay, so and so line, what I'm just trying to bisect from this point, or so and so point from this reference is existing at an angle of inclination something theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, and so on. Okay, so those angles what we are going to be measuring with the help of magnetic meridian as my reference is what we call it as magnetic bearing. Okay, I talked about what is meant by meridian. Next, let me try to introduce you to what is called as your bearing. Now, what does this bearing mean? Bearing is nothing but it's the angle what you are trying to measure in order to locate from your reference, so-called reference, at how much angle of inclination so and so survey line is existing, so and so object is existing, so and so point is existing. Okay, so if I'm trying to say at so and so angle your line, survey line, or maybe object or something, let's say for example this is the traverse what I am just trying to look at. Okay, so at this point A, this is B, this is C, this is D, this is E. Okay, at point A, I am trying to stand with the help of my compass instrument, and I'll just try to understand what is my reference direction, maybe your true meridian, maybe your magnetic meridian, maybe your arbitrary meridian, or maybe your grid meridian, whatever is that meridian reference which you are looking at. With respect to that particular meridian reference as what I have chosen, if I'm measuring some angle with respect to your line AB or maybe your line AE, okay, so whatever the lines that are existing at that control station or that particular station position A, so those angles, whatever I am measuring, is nothing but we call it as bearing. Bearing is nothing but the angle what you are measuring in order to locate the position of any object, or in order to locate the position of any line or any network that you have with respect to that station where you are measuring that angles. Okay, so that angle what you are measuring is nothing but we call it as bearing. We come across with different types of bearings. Once again, one is true bearing, other is magnetic bearing, grid bearing, arbitrary bearing. So what does this true bearing, magnetic bearing, grid bearing, arbitrary bearing means? If my reference plane or reference axis, if my reference plane or the reference axis is my true meridian with respect to which I am trying to measure your angle, then that subsequent angle what I am getting is nothing but we call it as your true bearing. If the reference axis is true meridian with respect to which your so-called angles or bearings are measured, so that bearing is what is called as your true bearing. Now what is magnetic bearing? If the angle measured is with respect to your magnetic north as my reference, then we call that particular angle or bearing to be magnetic bearing. Grid bearing, if your grid meridian is taken as reference for measuring your angles, then we call it as your grid bearing. Arbitrary bearing means if your arbitrary meridian is taken as reference to understand at what angle of inclination various lines or various objects or various points are there. So such kind of angles or bearings, we call it as your arbitrary bearings. Okay, so we'll stop our discussion, and in next class, we'll continue with our discussion.